In this lesson, we're going to be going over finding hotspots. You may want to find places where there's actually wireless networks available, particularly if you're doing a pen test. You probably want the ability to find all of the wireless networks that are available within an organization, whether you're in the parking lot because you're doing this in a stealth mode or whether you're in the building. You need to be able to find all of the different access points. And this is the same idea as just being out in the real world looking for hotspots that you could connect to. So we're going to talk about some different ways of locating hotspots and some different types of software that you can use in order to find these hotspots or access points in wireless networks that you can connect to. The first thing I want to talk about is just the idea of using your operating system and using the tools that come with it. In this case, I'm using the Mac OS, and I can just do a little pull down there on my little radio, and it's going to show me all of the networks that are available within a particular range and anything that it sees transmitting. So I can do that. Windows has a similar function where you can use your wireless network adapter and have it show you the wireless networks that are within range, and you can make a determination as to whether to connect or not. Now, with this particular setup, I can see whether one has encryption or authentication associated with it, and that's the little lock. You can see Kilroy WLAN has a lock next to it, and that's because it uses WPA2 in order to do the privacy extensions and have encryption and authentication. So I can see whether something is encrypted or not, and that's just from using the operating system. I don't need any special tools. I don't need to go download anything to be able to do that, just to get a list of the networks that are either known or are broadcasting. Now, mobile devices, most of them these days have Wi-Fi capability, so you can do the same thing. You can walk around with your Android phone or your iPhone or your iPad or your Android tablet or whatever you happen to have. You can walk around and just get it to pull up the list of available Wi-Fi networks. In some cases, it just pops up automatically. Hey, guess what? You walked into range of this Wi-Fi network. Do you want to connect to it? And you can say, yeah, I want to connect to it. And if it's protected, it will ask you for a password. But you can use your mobile device to do the same thing. Now, for years, there have been pieces of software that will do this for you. And here happens to be one of them. This is Kismac. It's actually an implementation of Kismet, which runs under Unix-like systems. And the thing about Kismac is it hasn't been terribly well updated, so there's a problem with actually getting it to work. I've gotten Kismac to sort of work on this, and by work I mean it doesn't crash on me anymore, but it also doesn't generate anything useful from the scan. So while it actually runs and doesn't crash, it's not really what you would call useful at this point. You may have better luck with it. So Kismac is out there, and I think it runs better on older versions of Mac OS. I have a recent version of Mac OS, and actually the most recent version fixed some problems that I had running it in older versions. So there's Kismac. As I said, Kismet is available. It's the same sort of thing. It runs under Linux. If you've got a Linux system with a wireless adapter, you can use that. Here's NetStumbler, and NetStumbler runs under Windows, and you can see I've got it running here. The problem I've got with NetStumbler is I'm running it in a virtual machine, and so there's no wireless adapter found. But NetStumbler works pretty much the same. Before you can turn the scanning on, it will pop up the list of SSIDs that it found, as well as the MAC addresses for them, and then the information about the name, the channel, speed, vendor, and all of the other information that you want. And then you could filter that by channels and by SSIDs. So it's got some interesting and useful information. If you have multiple devices, you can select which device, or in this case it says use any suitable device, and there's actually no suitable device available on this system to do that, but works pretty much the same way as Kismac does. Will show you the list of SSIDs that it's found. Now let me show you one that actually does work. This again is on the Mac and it's called Wi-Fi Explorer. It's available in the App Store, and you can use Wi-Fi Explorer to get a list of all of the SSIDs and networks that are available. This one provides the same sort of information as Kismac and NetStumbler do. They've got a signal strength, average MAC, signal to noise, and the channel number. Also tells you whether there's security involved in the vendor for the particular access point that we are talking to. In this case, there is only one network that it's finding at the moment. And you can see on the far right column, it says it was last seen. So if you've got an access point that comes and goes, you could leave Wi-Fi Explorer up and it would show you when it last saw it. So you'd have an idea of when it appeared. If you've got rogue access points, sometimes a rogue access point will be turned on and it will show up for a little while, then it'll be unplugged and it will go away. It's where if you run Wi-Fi Explorer for a little while, you'll get a list of everything that it's found and you'll see whether it's available now or whether it's not. There are other utilities that are available to find hotspots or wireless networks, and you can certainly use any one of those things. As I said, sometimes the easiest way is the best way, and you can just use your operating system. The thing about the operating system is it won't find networks that don't have their SSID broadcast, and you have a better shot of finding those with some of these other tools. So in order to connect to a network that didn't have its SSID broadcast, you'd actually have to know what the SSID was in order to connect to it. So the operating system won't actually show that to you in a list of networks that are available. So he said these other tools have a better shot of finding those networks and displaying them to you. But that's some different ways of finding wireless networks and finding hotspots.